All right, we are going. So thanks for coming back on the show. Excited to talk to you. It'll be a year next month, I think. I think we did it in February
Wow.
last year. Yeah, it's been a year.
Wow, time flew by. Thanks so much for having me on the show again.
Yeah, for sure. So you've done quite a bit since we last talked. So I want to talk to you about your ayahuasca experience because that's something that I don't think that's something I'll ever try. I just don't. I mean, I say
I
that
didn't
now.
think I would either.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah,
No.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's something I'll ever try, but it fascinates me. So many people are doing it, so I'm just curious to hear about what your experience was and stuff like that. So, and I want to talk to you about your podcast. You recently just launched a podcast, so I want to plug that and just kind of talk about our growth that we've done in the past year, some transformations, some changes, and things that we've discovered along the way. So, just a fun conversation, nothing crazy.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
All right, cool. Now, did you just move recently? Did I see something about that? Like you moved or?
I did, yeah. My long-term partner and I split up, and we tried to live together. And even though we care about each other a lot, it just wasn't really working. So just relocated and found a better living situation for myself while I'm in school. For those that don't know, I'm studying osteopathy right now, so it's pretty in
Yeah,
depth.
yeah.
So to have a stable home base is helpful. But it was really only like a 10-minute move. I didn't really change cities.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay, yeah, and I just recently discovered that you're studying the osteopathic medicine. I didn't know. So you'd put posts and like you're like drawing pictures of like vertebrae and stuff, and like wasn't sure what you were studying, but yeah, I just found that out. That's fascinating. That's cool.
it is. It is really fascinating.
Because I'll be honest, I wasn't completely sure what it was, so I had to look it up. And what did it say? It said treatment aims to positively affect the body's nervous, circulatory, and lymphatic systems.
Yeah, it
So
sounds like a very scientific explanation.
sounds about right.
In Canada, we don't train as DOs, so it's purely just the hands-on that we learn. So we have 4 years, 12 months of like clinical experience
Oh
of
wow.
just doing the hands-on manipulation work and working hands-on with bodies from day one.
Okay, what does DO mean? What is that?
A doctor of osteopathy.
Oh,
Which
gotcha.
in the States, you guys have that. I think 25% of your physicians are trained as DOs. And because the States holds that title in Canada, we're not allowed to use a lot of terms because we're kind of, I guess, Canada and the States are sort of in bed together. So there's a lot of funny
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
But it's amazing. And I work in a clinic right now where I get to see patients being treated by grads of the program. And some people, they walk in on their first treatment and they come in a few weeks later and they look like a totally different person, physically, energetically, like how they talk, like everything. And it's really amazing to see that the path that I'm heading down is actually creating these really positive changes for people.
Oh, nice. How long you been doing that for? For
So I've
long.
been in the program just over 2 years now.
And how much further you have to go?
Two more.
2 more years?
2 more years. Yeah, I did. I did not have a science background when I went into the program, so they have a 6 month preliminary program
Hmm.
to kind of get you up to speed with your anatomy and physiology. So I started the program. I guess it was December 2017, 16. I guess 2016. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's pretty crazy.
Oh wow. Yeah, my wife and I were just talking, so we're thinking about maybe throwing me back into school to like
Mm,
nutrition school, be a nutritionist. And I know Cornell University has a pretty stout
yeah.
plant-based course, so I'm thinking about maybe doing that one. It's all online, so I could just do it from home, like whenever
Oh,
I
it's
have time. But
fantastic.
yeah,
Kind of down your alley.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, if I'm already in this, because we're trying to figure out how I can financially get out of the job that I'm doing now, which is driving trucks, and do something that's more along the lines of what I'm talking about and doing every day anyway. So might as well
For
get some
sure.
training in that. So.
Awesome.
But I'm going to use you as my healthcare practitioner for a second because so I've been driving trucks for 20 years and my neck and my back are killing me. So I know I have some postural imbalances.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that's a lot of the issues that people come to you is probably job related, just repetitive things that people do in their jobs, a lot of sitting at the desk. So, a lot of carpal tunnel syndrome, back issues. So when you see that, when someone has back issues, what typically is out of balance in a situation like that?
It's different with everyone, but back
Okay.
pain, I would say, is the number one reason people show up. They're like, okay, I've tried all these things, nothing's worked. Somebody said for me to see you. I have no idea what it is, but do your best. So right now I'm actually working on a case study where I have found that, you know how the spine creates like an S curve?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got like the sacrum at the base of the spine, the tailbone, and then your lumbar spine should create this kind of curve in. And then your upper back, a lot of people overcorrect their posture. They're squeezing the shoulder blades together and trying to straighten it out. And some people are actually removing the curve from their upper back that should be there. There should be a little bit of a healthy rounding. And then in the neck, again, it almost mirrors the lumbar.
Right.
So the person that I'm working on right now, and what I'm pretty sure is going on, is there's actually tension in the hamstrings, which causes the pelvis to tilt backwards.
Right.
Forces the lumbar spine to go from that curve down to that because the tailbone's dropping. And then the body, to compensate, has straightened out the thoracic spine, and then the neck is forward because the body's constantly seeking balance. It's like a physical homeostasis, really. And but every case is different. For some people, it could be that they twist for the job. For some people, it's that they're already always in a seated position, so their hip flexors are really tight, and that causes the pelvis to tilt one way or another.
Right.
There's so many different factors. That's the cool thing with osteopathy, though, is we're not just looking at, okay, the back, say your low back is sore, we're not just going to look at the low back, but everything that could be contributing to that. It could be one muscle is on tension, and it's throwing the whole chain out of whack.
Right. Yeah, mine's primarily like in between my shoulder blades. It shoots up my neck. Oh man, it's just it drives me nuts because I'm not sure what. I mean, is it a weak abdomen? Is it an overactive back? I'm like, I don't know. Because I want to start doing some fitness goals for the new year. So I'm actually gonna have a friend who's a personal trainer give me a physical assessment and give me some corrective exercises. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know if I should work on the.
It's good to have someone look that knows structure to see what's going on.
Yeah. I was watching this one video the other day where this guy was doing an assessment, and you could just see from the guy looking at his back, you could see like his hips were tilted, and so that throws off his spine, and so his shoulders were off, and like the whole thing.
Exactly.
It's all connected. So it's like if one thing is out.
When you see the hips and shoulders off, that's a big thing that we look for. You have blood flow. I mean, just thinking about the blood, where it supplies nutrients and removes waste from all the tissues of the body. If you have hips that are tilted, one leg is going to get more blood circulation than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so even that alone, or, one side, the nerve might be impinged a little bit. Just because you're not feeling numbness doesn't mean that there isn't a compression.
Right.
So there's so many things going on.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this too the other day. It's like, because the body's bilateral, right? So, that's why we have the two kidneys, and that's so lymphatic system on one side and one on the other. So maybe one side lymphatic.
Your lymphatic system on the left actually takes care of most of your body.
Oh, does it? Okay.
And the right is actually only the chest and the arm, really.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
The left takes care of the legs, most of the torso. It's very asymmetrical left and right with the lymphatic system.
Okay, I was thinking like maybe one side was more congested than the other, so that was like offsetting your posture or something. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
There's a lot of different theories behind it, but the left side actually is about 75 to 80% of the body, and then the right side is just chest and arm.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, it's crazy how like if you when you're a teenager, if you like screwed up your ankle and you didn't heal it properly, that's going to throw off your knee, which throws off your hip, which throws off your spine. And then like, why do I have headaches all the time? It's because your ankle, dummy. You got to get that fixed.
Yeah. It was, it's interesting because both of us have been on the kind of detoxification journey and the raw food journey over the years. And I've learned in my studies that all these other people around me were getting better just by, eating really clean and doing this. And I just, no matter what I did, I wasn't feeling the way that I should. And the first time that someone did a proper assessment on me and found some really interesting things in my body, it was like, finally, someone believes me that there's something not right.
Yeah.
And since I've been getting treatment, it's like my body is responding better to the food, to all of the different things. I'm able to feel better in my skin. I lost half my hair in my early 20s. And over the last 12 months of getting
Yeah.
regular
Yeah, me
treatment,
too. Me too.
my hair started growing back.
Oh, did it?
Like,
Nice.
I'm almost 35 years old and I have like new growth all through my hair. My hairdresser goes through, puts a part anywhere, and there's hair about that long
Oh,
all over my head. And, you know, hormone balance and so many different things. But it was, I started crying when someone's finally like, oh, well, you have all of these things going on. Thank you. Finally, like, I finally
yeah.
found an answer. So
Yeah.
structural is definitely an important thing to look at. Not necessarily for everyone, but if you find the food's not doing it and it should, there
Right.
might be something else to consider as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot
Not
of
that the
that.
food doesn't work, just that you may need a little bit more.
Yeah. If your gastrointestinal tract is all blocked up, I mean, you're not going to be absorbing the nutrients. Because I felt that way too. Like when I first got into this lifestyle, you know, everybody's drinking these green juices and like, oh, I feel the energy, I feel a tingle, I feel it myself. I'm like, I don't feel anything. You know, I don't think I was absorbing it. I think I was so backed up in the
Yeah.
beginning that I just wasn't getting the nutrients in. It was just going right through me. So there's
That's,
always stuff you got to work on for sure.
yeah.
So let's get into it. I want to talk to you about your ayahuasca
Okay.
experience because you did that after we spoke last time. So
Yeah.
what prompted that? And when did you do that? What month was that?
April.
So you did it not too long after we talked. Okay.
Yeah, it was April of last year. So I first heard about ayahuasca 10 years ago. I was working in a raw food restaurant. The chef that I was working with, she started asking me about this, like, had I ever heard of it? Had I ever done it? It was like the way she approached me was that she'd maybe like heard about it on the internet and was curious if I knew anything about it. And over a period of time, I found out that she was actually very involved with it and was trying to feel me out, whether she
Yeah.
could
Right.
talk to me about it.
Uh,
And the more that I learned about it, the more I was like, I'm intrigued, but this is really scary. And maybe one day in the future, like, I don't know, like I'm intrigued by this, but not enough to actually go there because
now, have
I
you
don't
done?
know. That's a bit much for me.
Well, what's your past? You've done like mushrooms or acid or anything like that, or?
Mushrooms twice, and not in a medicinal way, but I will, and that's where I can find the comparison with ayahuasca. So mushrooms was purely like just like a heart-centered, very loving. What I found was that it brought me into a childlike state. And as someone who had a lot of trauma in my formative and adult years, to be just a kid was just so wonderful.
Right.
Just to have like a glimpse of that. And I've heard some people have had like awful trips, but for me, both times were very positive experiences. And to just be childlike, to not, you know, worry about sexuality and all these things that we worry about as adults, especially as a female, to just be a child, to be present, to be in the moment, to laugh, to have fun. That was my experience. And that was a very positive experience. Other than that, like recreational marijuana,
Right.
but nothing non-plant, so nothing chemical. So going into this, the reason that I was finally ready to do it was that my best friend went in January, a few months prior, and she had a really positive experience. Not that it was all sunshine and unicorns,
Right. Right.
but coming out of it, it was really positive. And she is someone who is not into psychedelics or recreational drug use whatsoever.
And she
She
went to that lady you were talking to. She went to her.
um, I'm not going to discuss where we went just because of
Top
different
secret.
reasons.
Okay.
The girl that I learned it from,
You're
no,
right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I've actually been out of touch with her for a really
Okay.
long
Okay. Gotcha.
time. Yeah. But she had a positive experience. She came home, told me about it, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. Let's go. And I was for those that have not done plant medicine, you cannot expect anything. You can't, not that you can't expect anything to happen, but whatever you're hoping for or expecting to happen, your experience is going to be totally different.
Right.
I'll put it like that. Like, or if you have an experience and you go back the next ceremony, it's going to be totally different. So she had a lot of visuals. She had the typical, what you would picture when you search ayahuasca on Google, you're going to see, like if you search in images, you'll see all this like psychedelic pattern.
Right.
I think that's the easiest thing for people to share because it's visual. So people start making art with it.
Right.
For me, do you want me to kind of go into where you want me to go from here? That was kind of like how I found out about it. Do you want me to like go into my experience?
Oh, yeah. I'm fascinated to see what happens. Because like you said, I think most people think, well, I'm going to have this vision and I'm going to get this download from the universe and I'm going to talk to some dead relative and get this message and I'll be there and I'll be transported over here. I'm like, I'm not sure. I know it's different for everybody. So I'm just kind of curious of what your experience was.
Yeah, for sure. So I will say it was a combination of her going and giving me confidence to go, oh, she did it. I can do it too. And also at the time, I've always been a very like emotional, sensitive, empathic person. And at that time, I mentioned earlier, I moved recently because my partner and I split up. And I found I was becoming almost like just emotionally cut off. And I just wasn't really feeling anything. And I felt like I just needed a reset. I needed to figure, okay, where's my path next? And how do I, shake this feeling?
Right.
And so I, went into it. The sequence of ceremonies, it was, the theme was being very heart-centered, being very much about accessing love. And it was a time when I was questioning whether I ever actually really knew what love was.
Right.
For many reasons. And so I'm like, okay, I want to learn how to, love myself. And also I think one of the intentions I went into it with was also what is like the source of my digestive stuff. That was, I went in with a couple questions and, I thought, okay, maybe I'll just like lay there. I'll see some cool shit and I'll get this, like download from the universe. So like, okay, now I know the answers.
Yeah.
And it seems like some people get that kind of experience. For me, I guess I can't say I didn't have any visuals whatsoever, but it was very faint. It was as if I had like a black sheet over my head and everything I was seeing was kind of just like fragments of light.
Right.
I wasn't able to, and I think a big part of it was I had a hard time surrendering to the process. Right. Surrendering is one of the biggest lessons with this plant medicine. And I was like trying to analyze and control and be like, okay, now here it is. And like, I'm ready for it. And I feel like, and I'm still learning, but the biggest thing is letting your mind shut off. So if you are thinking about exploring it, have a good meditation practice going beforehand that you know how to kind of access that calmness. So anyway, when I went into the ceremony after having my first drink, I sat down and it's like if you do like cannabis with edibles, like it takes a while for it to set in. For some people, right away, they have this purge. For other times, it's like, maybe this is broken. Maybe I should have more, but you
take
need to
more.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you've got yourself in a bit of a pickle. But,
been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was probably a good hour and a half before anything really started to happen for me. And it was very mild, very gentle. They give you an eye mask so you cover, so you basically create like as much sensory deprivation as you can. One of the fears I had was actually falling asleep and missing the experience. So I was scared of closing my eyes sometimes because I thought I'd fall asleep. It happens overnight.
Oh, you're doing this at nighttime?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's because of the darkness that they usually do ceremonies at night, is to create that, because it's at any time you can open your eyes and come back into the room, but you're not going to see as much visuals with your eyes open, if that's, what's going to come forward for you. So my eyes were closed, and I started to see what it felt like is if you were really, really deep down in the ocean and you were looking at the surface, and how there's just like the little flickers of like flicks of light.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it almost looked like this, almost like a fluorescent purple, but it looked like it was just little bits. And it was like, I felt like it was trying to come through, and then it didn't. And then something shifted, and this is all very, very faint. I did not have vibrant colors. I remember seeing like just random faces of like all different cultures. And then like I opened my eyes, and I'm like kind of restless, and what's going on, and I didn't really feel too much. So I went and had another drink, and all this time you're starting to feel nauseous.
I was going to ask, did you vomit?
Yeah, I did. And that was actually my biggest fear. And now it's actually the part I look forward to the most.
Oh, that's the purging, right? You got to get it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually is like the most wonderful thing. But you're also fasted. So going into this, my last meal was at 4 p.m. And you're on this like really, really, it's kind of like a detoxification diet in its own way. But 4 p.m. was the last solid food I ate. And we're drinking at like 11:30, which is cool for some people. But I mean, my past, like I like to eat late at night. I like to eat a lot of heavy food. I'm a binge eater, like all of that. So for me, I have this, like, my head is like, my blood sugar is low. I need to eat something. Yeah. So because the actual brew itself does not taste good, they have like some little candies if you need to, like, so I take like a handful.
Y'all give me some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I had another drink, and then I laid down, and you feel kind of queasy, and it's just such an awful feeling. And I found myself really restless, and I don't remember the timeline of what happened, but I still found that my very first ceremony was the most intense one for me. And at some point in the night, I kind of became aware again, whether I drifted off to sleep or whether, my ego disassociated or whatever happened. But I realized that all of a sudden, I felt like I was exploded into 1,000 pieces. Mm. And if you don't know what cubism is, or like Picasso's cubism, like you've seen the art where there's like an eye over here and a nose over here, and it's all scattered. Mm. That was what I felt like my entire being was. And it felt like it was scattered and suspended in this like giant jello. And it was just existing. And at first I just kind of was with it. And then I had this recognition, and it's really hard to wrap your head around if you haven't had this experience. But in that moment, I felt timelessness. Time did not exist where I was. And it's just words to anyone that hasn't experienced it. And I only know because like it was truth for me. It wasn't even like, I believe in this now. It's like, this is absolute truth. Yeah. And then I started to panic because I started to reconnect with my physical body. And I realized I'm in a place of no time. I can get stuck here. This is where people get stuck. And I started to like go into this psychosis. I started to panic, and then I started to hyperventilate, and I thought I couldn't breathe. And then I'm like, okay, there's a place of no time. There is a time. Time is a thing. I have a watch. I have a wrist, an arm. And I talk myself all the way back into my body. But it was so intense. And I really, like, in my mind, believed that, like, wherever I went, that I was going to be stuck there. And this is the one experience that, to this day, if I was able to approach it more with curiosity than fear, I wonder what I would have gotten out of the experience. Yeah. But I had this panic. I'm like, this is where people get lost. And I just thought people do this and then they just get lost and they never appear again. And this is just, this is kind of where my head went.
You're like in a vegetated state in a hospital for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Kayla, exactly. This is where my mind went. But for me, that experience, and I still reflect on it. I will say, if you explore this, there's a good chance that when you come out, your mind will never work the same way again. You will never look at reality the same way again. The couple weeks following when I came back, anytime I talked about it, it was almost like even right now, it happens to me where there's almost this like mild haze of it that returns. It's like it's almost always with you after you explore it.
Mm.
And I will say the first time that I smoked a joint when I came home, it's like I revisited my ayahuasca experience. I felt the nausea. I felt the urge to purge. Like any mind-altering substances, drinking a glass of wine, whatever it is.
A flashback, yeah.
It's all of a sudden your consciousness has this memory, and it's a totally different experience. So you have to be a lot more careful than you used to be, at least in my experience. Yeah. So when I came out of that, there was also, what else happened that night? Seeing triple. Like all of a sudden everything's like scattered, and I'm like trying to get help, but I can't like shout it out. And
now, is there someone right next to you this whole time, or somebody in the room who's kind of watching you?
yeah, there was 3 shamans at the ceremony that I was
gotcha.
at. Yeah, there's always others there.
Is there like a safe word in case you like, because once you do it, there's no antidote to like stop it,
No,
right?
there's no, and I do remember that night. I'm like, where's I guess this is like do you guys have Staples in the States? The easy button? Is that like a thing? Okay.
Yeah.
I like, honestly, I was like, where's the magic red button? Where's the easy button?
Right,
I can
right.
shut it off.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I remember like I was like crawling, and I'm like, I need this to stop. I'm done. Like, how do I make it stop? But it was a scattered. I remember one time but you can, like, you're still, anything that you're in most of the time is not going to last that long. Sometimes the woman that was beside me, she was gone all night. She was just kind of in a space and she was gone. But most of the time you're experiencing something, you come back. Like, I got up and went to the washroom. I had like legs that moved around like I was standing on I don't know, something very unstable. That night, I think it took me most of the night to actually get to the point of having a purge. And once that happens, a lot of your nausea goes away. I don't know, for me, when I feel nauseous, like, it creates a lot of fear in me. But I don't remember that one specifically as well. I do remember that when the night started to come to an end, I just like, oh, it was the most blissful thing ever. I'm like, wow, I survived some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But that timelessness feeling was really intense. When I was talking to people after that experience, one thing that they've said that actually, because there's a lot of science behind this plant medicine, is that one of the things it does, because like subconscious patterning, we have a lot of really strong neural pathways in the brain. Something that ayahuasca has the potential to do is actually blow apart those really strong wires so you can rewire.
Right.
And I think this is why it's used for a lot of addictions, for post-traumatic stress disorder, for all sorts of different things, where some people, they come out of one sequence of ceremonies and they're a changed person. Or some people, it takes a long period of time, but it actually is able to do that to the brain, which is so wild. And that's something I've been learning a lot about in the past year is the subconscious mind. And in that moment, I was like, I had this like urge to reprogram myself. Like, I tried to like say all these positive affirmations, but it's really not up to me in that moment. But it was really interesting because I feel like that was what was happening, was that separation. And it was almost like the spirit of ayahuasca was trying to separate me from the mind that's just thinking so much, to just exist. And part of me would love to revisit that one day and explore it again, but it's not up to me when it happens. It happens when it happens. The second ceremony I did is where I learned the beauty of the purge.
Now, this is that you do 2 ceremonies in one weekend, right? Is that how it works? Is it like 2 days or something?
There was 2 ceremonies where the first time that I did ayahuasca. Some places it's some people do just 1. Sometimes it's 4 in a week. They're all kind of structured differently. I personally, if I did just the one, I would have never done it again. So for me, I liked having the two to have this very strong contrast, because I did get what I was after out of the weekend in the end.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like when people go to yoga for the first time. There's a lot of people are like, I tried that, not for me. With
Right.
yoga, you need to give it more than one shot.
Right. Well,
With
because
yoga, like at least go to 2 classes. And I think that's the same thing with this, is if you're going there, if you're, if you're ready to get into it, like do at least 2 ceremonies.
yeah, I just recently found this show. It's Kentucky Ayahuasca. It's
Hmm.
on the History Channel, or I don't know, one of those channels. But basically, it's this husband and wife who basically live in Kentucky, are shamans or whatever, and they document and film people going to them for the ceremonies.
Interesting.
And so it's like a 2-day process. The first night, it's a light dose, just so they get kind of a sample of it, and then if they're ready, then the next night they'll have the full dose, whatever. So
Right.
I guess it's different for everybody who does it, but
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Um, because I think I drank twice the first night and 3 times the second night. And I think a lot of it is, it's not so much the volume that you're consuming, but it's your openness as well. Like some people, one will give them the most intense experience ever. And some people, nothing happens.
right.
There was one girl that sat there all night and nothing happened for her.
Oh, that sucks.
And that's just, but we're all at a different place. Like, what are you going into it with? Are you open to it? Are you going into it with a lot of fear? I've gone into a ceremony with a lot of fear before, and I'm not sure if it was the reason that I had an unpleasant experience, or the fear was telling me it wasn't time right now. I
Right.
don't know. There's a lot of introspection. Um, I will say, just like things that I've learned over the last, I guess it's 9 months since I did it. If you go to you go like a self-help weekend workshop or something, you don't go for the weekend and then go home and continue with your life. You still want to do your homework. You still want to
Right.
visit the things that you have learned and experienced. And this is the same thing. You don't just go it and then come home and carry on business as usual. You need to explore. For my experience, because I had what's called like a more visceral experience, I had more feeling and not so much visuals.
Hmm.
I didn't get like a clear, okay, this is, the message. But
Right.
instead, I've spent since last April, over time, when I get quiet, when I dig inward, I am slowly learning more and more from those experiences. And I think it was actually how I interacted with the experiences I was given was what I've learned the most from.
Nice. Nice. I can
Yeah,
kind of relate to something like that too, because I'm a little over 2 years sober now myself from alcohol, but
amazing.
I'll dabble with marijuana, cannabis. I don't have a problem with that. That wasn't my issue. So the past couple times that I've done it, my wife and I did some edibles, and we did the whole thing where like we don't feel anything. It's been an hour and a half. So let's just take the rest of it, and then good Lord, you know where that story goes. But just doing the cannabis, I used to be a pot smoker when I was younger. I did it for years every day, but then I didn't touch it for a long time. But my past experiences in doing it, kind of doing it recreationally, but also trying to have an experience out of it too. But it's really been an eye opener for me because it's allowed me to kind of step out of myself and see things from a different perspective. Like maybe something me and my wife were, arguing about or having a discussion about, and I wasn't seeing it from her point of view. But then going through that experience, I'm like, oh, now I get it. It just kind of changed
Mm.
my thought patterns, let me perceive things from a different perspective. And so it's
Takes the
been
ego out of the way, not the like, I have to be right and you're
right,
wrong.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been an eye opener for me. And like, so now I'm looking forward to just, experimenting with that a little bit here and there. But yeah, I could just see how that ayahuasca experience could just pull you out of, yeah, like you said, your ego and allow you to see things from a different perspective. I mean, there's a chemical process happening in the brain too, but yeah, just
There's a
to,
lot of things
yeah,
happening. Yeah. Yeah. Um, So the night where I learned to appreciate and actually look forward to the purge was my second night, and I spent most of the night just like anticipating. I couldn't get comfortable. I was like, okay, when is it going to happen? I don't want to throw up on my sleeping bag. And when it was able to finally come, it was almost like this gateway had unlocked, and it was over and over and over. It was probably about 6 or 7 times in a very short period of time. And you're drinking like a couple ounces. So there's something else. Like, you have hardly eaten, you're basically fasted. And because it happened for me so many times, I was actually able to almost step outside of what was happening there and observe it, almost as an outsider, just feeling my body. And the experience that I had was almost like energy from all of my extremities was all gathering in a ball at the base of my spine, like around like root chakra, sacral chakra, like really low down. And it just went straight up through me. This is like, I knew this was like, this is not my stomach. Like, this is way below my stomach. And it's like bypassing the organs. Don't try to wrap your head around. This is
right.
feeling, and something physically comes out. But it was beyond my stomach. Like, the stomach is just under your rib cage, but it was from deep down in my body, and it happened over and over and over again. And it was exhausting, and you're just like, I don't know if I can do it anymore. And you're just, it takes everything out of you. But I really think that that's where, people are talking about the scientific component, how it affects the brain. I really feel like we have, even in my program, we talk more scientific because we want to be appreciated and respected by other professions. But I really feel like there's this energetic component. When something traumatic happens, we store it in different places in our body. Or if you look at the chakra system, there's different emotions associated with all of those. And I really feel like, for me personally, I had, as a child, as a teenager, I had a lot of physical and sexual trauma. So there was always things, and I think that could have been connected to the gut issues as well, because you're looking at the base of the spine, the space just below the belly button. Those are kind of those foundational areas. Your root chakras, do I, feel safe in my home? Do I feel like my basic human needs are being taken care of? And when something happens to your body that you have no control of, you don't feel safe in your own home, like in your physical home. And I feel like a lot of that healing happened, and I only realized it in the last couple months, what had happened back in April, as I just go through my life and I realize I'm reacting differently as different situations arise. And I didn't realize how much had changed for me in that weekend until I started just living my life again.
Right.
Yeah, it was really amazing. Another thing that I found, talking about like the actual home, the body, is I gained this appreciation for my body that I never really had before. Because you're in the darkness, sight is away, so you're not like ugly, beautiful, whatever. I got to this point. I was in my sleeping bag. I took all my clothes off, and I just started like touching my skin. And I was just in, and this is back to that, like with psilocybin, takes you to that childlike state. I was just in awe, like, oh, wow, like hot, cold, like there's a bone under there. There's a soft spot. Like, I just like felt all of the different like surfaces of my body. And I had this amazing appreciation that my spirit was so grateful that I was given this body for this life.
Right.
It was a really cool experience, and so oppositional to people having such a hard time with their own bodies. They're, too fat, too thin, too weak, too, whatever their skin color is, not enough. And to just take away what it looks like and use all the other senses to appreciate it. It was really amazing. Coming through to the closing ceremony, I realized one of the things that I was really after was to feel what my definition of love was, to experience it, to really believe in it. Coming through it, you go into this sequence of ceremonies with a group of strangers. You don't know anything about each other, and you get in a room together and you are willing to be vulnerable.
All right.
You are, sitting there listening to people burp and fart and vomit and laugh and cry and scream and just experience things. And you're able to see this beauty in it because they're not trying to be anything but what they are. And ayahuasca basically is forcing them to be what they are in the present moment, because you can't escape it. Your ego is out there. You don't care. If you feel like getting up and dancing, you're not worried about like, oh, well, they're dancing better than I am doing. Like, you are so in your space. And that enabled me to realize, like, that is where I'm able to feel love. That is why when we're with, like, say a sexual partner, or like in a relationship of that sort, we get vulnerable around each other. And so we're able to feel love that we wouldn't feel for someone we met at the grocery store.
All right.
We let our guard down when we open up to love. And when people hide parts of themselves, it's hard to connect on that level.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of what has fed, as on my social media, but mostly Instagram. A lot of the posts I put out are very open, not because I want people to love me, but I want people to see that it's okay to be vulnerable and to share that you're not perfect and
Right.
be perfect in that.
Well, it sounds like you had a beautiful experience, and you kind of walked away with, finding what you were kind of looking for that self-love and just being intuitive to yourself. And I think that ties in great to what you're saying about the social media thing, because, me and you both are kind of attached to these fruit, raw food lifestyles. And we were passionate about it. I think our intentions were good, but I think it might have been a little misguided because it kind of condemned us to this certain mode of thinking or the way we should be presenting ourselves out there to the world. And so you've made a huge change and kind of dropped the fruit label and just being more yourself. And I'm kind of going through the same process. And it sounds like you kind of.
Now, have you found that you actually have changed how you're eating?
Just over time or just recently? Just
like since you changed the label. Do you find you're still eating the same way and just not feeling as stressed about it?
I've always been pretty good, if I ate foods that weren't healthy, to have a mindset like, I know I'm eating something that's not ideal for me. And I've always been pretty good with that. Like, I didn't eat with the shame, eating something and then like, oh, I shouldn't eat that. So I've been pretty good about that. So I'm pretty balanced in that sense, where I'm not beating myself up if I deviate from a cleaner version of a diet. But I'm just being more intuitive, what feels natural to me, instead of trying to emulate what I see other people doing and trying to follow their path, because that's not my path, that's their path. So I need to be more intuitive to myself. So that was part of my change of why I kind of changed my, Instagram and podcast name and all that stuff. Just, I didn't feel like I was a good ambassador for the raw food community, because I wasn't 100%. Even though you don't have to be 100%, but for some reason in my mind, well, if you're going to represent that community, you got to be 100%. And so that was kind of holding me back and messing me up and just kind of tripping me up. So I want to disassociate from the food thing. I think that's kind of dragging me down. So I'm going to ditch that. So was that the same experience for you?
Yeah. I mean, I find for the most part, like my groceries, like I'm pretty much eating the same way I was before. It's just now I don't feel this, because I was fruit medicine before. I felt like I had to, talk about food and, represent this like lifestyle and, be this person. And whenever I wasn't doing that, I would be hiding from
You're a hypocrite, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was basically thinking, okay, the people that are raw, that are, that are getting the results, they're like, perfect, and I'm not good enough. Right. And our labels that we put on ourselves, it's so unfair, because we're forcing ourselves to compare ourselves to others. And so I'm trying not to label myself as anything. I did put back on my Instagram recently that I am plant-based because people wonder, but I'm not using the title vegan because there are probably aspects of my life that some people would go after me about. I'm a knitter. I use animal fiber.
How
I
dare
use
you?
that.
How dare you?
I know.
Yeah, I know.
But you know what? When you look at it environmentally, I'm try to be as particular as possible when I source, but would I rather put acrylic out into the oceans or animal fiber that's eventually going to break down? And not that I'm like, putting out thousands of things, but there's little things
Right.
like that. And that's been one of my choices. And instead of I was trying to hide and trying to be perfect and fit under, make sure that I wasn't going to rock the boat with anyone else out there that was really special. I just
Right.
wanted to be more me. And so my name now is Kayla and the Sea. And
I love that,
my,
by the way. That's cool.
yeah, so it's actually my last name starts with the letter C. The family that I have grown up with starts with the letter S. So it kind of combines the two. I always dreamed about being by the ocean, but the sea more than anything else is exploring a lot of different things. It's like being out in the sea and just, wandering and exploring and seeing what's out there for me and not putting the labels on myself, because the things that I have explored in the last year, I never thought I would have. I jumped out of an airplane on the Sunday before Christmas. I went to church. Like I
Right.
went and
Right.
did these
Right.
things that I don't do. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I just never thought I would. Exploring plant medicine, and the journey continues.
Yeah, yeah. I've talked to quite a few people in the community at this point, and you'd be surprised the amount of people who say like, "Oh, I've known so and so for a while, and he doesn't do 100% of what he says he does." So I think people are just putting their best image on social media and doing some things behind closed
And then
doors.
we create this divide. It's almost like they're something else, but we were all like, once a single-celled organism. We were all at one point vulnerable babies. We're all just humans, and for some reason we create this line where this person is above that line and I'm below, and I still battle with it, even with people in my immediate life that like, oh well, their opinion matters more than me, and self-confidence issues. And so I
Yeah,
wanted to take away that label and just be okay with myself and build up from there.
yeah, yeah. I didn't want to be involved in the diet wars anymore, so I took more
No.
of a holistic approach. So, because I mean, raw food was just one spoke in the wheel for
Yeah.
overall health. So I'm like, well, what else can I explore? Let's kind of get out of that and start checking out some other areas. So it's been a blessing for me to kind of ditch that persona behind me and move on to other things. So
Not that there's anything wrong with it. I
no,
love
no, no,
I
no.
love the whole raw food realm, and I revisit it often. It's amazing.
Yeah,
But there's it's not the only thing.
right, right. Well, how is your relationship to social media? Because I don't think we talked about this last time. Are you?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like I'm always on my phone, always checking my phone, and I got to balance it out. But at the same time, I'm trying to, grow this brand and do this and do that. So it's kind of hard not to. But how's your relationship to
It's
your phone?
it's tricky. So someone once said a statistic that the average person unlocks their phone over 200 times a day.
Oh, I'm not
I was like,
surprised.
oh my God, the average. So there's probably some people that are upwards of 1,000.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I actually, I put an app on my phone that every morning it gives me a recap of the previous day. So I realized
Oh God, no, I don't want
like
that.
I'm over 100 unlocks a day. Like my phone is always nearby, and I'm trying to get down below 100. That's my goal right now. I am on physically on Instagram every day. That's my big social media.
Right, right.
I'm a fan of it. I find I go on there and I usually feel really inspired just by looking at people's images, reading what people write. As far as posting, I'm not, I'm very up and down on my own, partially because I don't always feel inspired and I want to write something of substance when I do post something. Um, and yeah, I think I'm still trying to recalibrate. It's funny because you go after the likes because the likes give more exposure.
Right, right.
people see more, but I don't want to have my Instagram just a bunch of my face, you know?
Right,
But
right.
then do I post my food? And then I'm going back to who I was. And so right now I'm in this in-between stage. Now, the Instagram that is getting posted on almost daily is the podcast that I just recently started with my best friend. So we have just posted our 3rd episode. We're posting weekly on our podcast. It's just audio now. We're not at video yet, but we'll get there eventually. But that, because it's something that we're trying to build, we are on there daily because that's just how you play the game, right? You need to be consistent.
Yeah.
Facebook, I would say 99% of the alerts that I get, I don't look at.
Right.
Unless someone sends me a personal message. There's not a guarantee that I see it. And I used to be all over that, but I'm more on the phone now and less on the computer, which I think is a good transition. Although the phone is always in your pocket, so it's tricky like that.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the problem is this phone is, we are becoming symbiotic with this technology because
we have the same phone as you.
Oh, do you? Because our memories are in here, our photographs, our life, our history's in here. We can find information at a touch of a button. So we are becoming part of this technology, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, our memory is embedded in here. So
yeah,
they say at some point we're going to uplink to the cloud with our memory. I don't know how that's going to work, but they say that's where it's going with the AI and all that stuff. So
we can fly. Like anything can happen.
Yeah, I guess it's just finding that happy balance. You know, I'm pretty good about not jumping on my phone right away in the morning. You know, I know there's probably some messages or something to check, but I'm usually pretty good. Just wait a little bit, you know, kind of wake up, you know, do my morning ritual routine, whatever, and then turn on the phone. Because then the anxiety starts, you know what I mean? And I start feeling the anxiety with the phone. You ever left your house without the phone and feel that panic attack? Yeah, you're like, oh my God. It's like, did I drive too far? That's too much to go back, or am I around the corner? Should I go get it? Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and then you have it, and you're like, nothing would have happened if I didn't have it. Not a big deal.
Exactly.
But how you wonder, like, now we expect immediacy with everything because of it.
Right.
And I've
yeah, that's a problem.
myself that I'm like, if I'm in a conversation with someone, I'm like, well, when are they going to reply? Like, and I keep looking at my phone, like, and then I'm checking, well, did they read my Instagram message? Is their little name there? Do they read it and they didn't reply yet?
Yeah.
When were they last active on all their other social media? And you almost get obsessive because we expect everything to be so immediate.
Yeah.
The app that I put on my phone, it's called Quality Time, but you have the option to actually, you can set up different apps. Like say your social media apps, you can have it so it's only available certain times of the day. So say after 10 p.m. you won't get any alerts and you can't use it again until whenever.
Okay.
I learned about this. Someone did a talk actually at Woodstock last August about social media and how to kind of use it in a healthy way. But it's tricky because I feel like there's some really amazing parts of it, and then there's also some really detrimental parts, and you have to figure out what side of the fence you're on with it. And I think it's when you catch yourself unlocking the phone and constantly checking for validation that maybe you need to sit down and close your eyes and meditate a little bit. Or
Yeah. Well, it's tricky for me because, like I said, I'm trying to, you know, grow my podcast, and the more people I get to listen, the more opportunities and doors will open for me, collaborations, maybe some financial security. So for me, it's always a hustle. I'm always hustling and
your Insta stories are the best. I love watching your Insta stories.
I try and have fun with it. I don't be too serious. I have a pretty good sense of humor. So
yeah, I think that's one of the best things. I think that's why I like Instagram more, is that it's just so user friendly. Like one time I got in the bath and I was sitting there for 45 minutes just watching Insta stories.
Yeah.
But it's, you get like I feel like with those, people aren't as polished as they are with their posts. So you get more of a taste of who they are in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost makes everyone more accessible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's a tricky road, but gotta balance it out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so why don't we start wrapping this up? But I definitely want to talk about your podcast that you just launched.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Now, are you guys on iTunes? Because I didn't see it on.
We are being, so we have submitted to iTunes and it's just getting validated or whatever it is.
The RSS feed.
Yeah.
So it's a little complicated.
I submitted it maybe 3 or 4 days ago. Once we had our third show up and I was like, okay, now we're being consistent, then I submitted to iTunes. So it should be up there soon. But I'm doing this little kind of passion project with my best friend. Our podcast is called Sage Wisdom Podcast. And our big intention is to interview a lot of people that are in the spiritual, personal growth, self-help realm. We know quite a few people in person that we have either already interviewed or plan on interviewing for the show. And we're posting weekly. So our plan right now is to do one episode of just us and then one interview back and forth. We have a really interesting dynamic. We've been friends for a long time and we have a lot of mutual passions, but then we also have different perspectives on things. So it makes for an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
The last one we actually did was on plant medicine, and we started off intending it to be about 25 minutes because we wanted ours to be shorter ones. We had more time for interviews, and about like 27 minutes in, Candace like quickly scribbles on paper and she's like, can we do 60 minutes? Because we just had such a great conversation going. So right now we're on SoundCloud and we put the links on our Instagram page. We have a Facebook page and it hopefully will be up on iTunes soon. And it's enjoyable. It's nice for me to have a creative project and also to be working with someone that has a little bit more fire to get things done. Because I'm an idea person, but I'm not always good at
take action. Yeah.
Go through. Yeah, we're a really great combination. And then I've got, a little bit more of a creative perspective on things so we can make things, a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, and it's a lot of fun.
So what kind of geek out here for minutes? What kind of platform you guys recording on? You using like GarageBand or something, or how you guys doing it?
Oh my gosh, I have a Rode lav mic and I plug it into my cell phone, and that's what we've done so far.
Okay.
A friend of mine has lent me a more proper microphone. He's a little bit more into sound production, and last night he was helping us create kind of an intro sound for the show, and he's like, oh, Kayla, you can't do this. You need to cover the mic up, because his ear is so much more finely tuned. So in the next episode, the sound quality, but it's like, you know what? It's better to do it wrong and still do it than not do it at all, is kind of the mantra that I'm going by right now. So, if you want to start a podcast and all you have is your phone, then just use your phone. And,
you said this last time, 5 minutes of bad yoga is better than no yoga at all. So
yeah, exactly. And that's speaking from someone who has avoided doing a lot of things. So it's better to just do a little bit. So right now, that's what we're using. Depending on how much my friend wants to get involved, he might actually, do a little bit more of the sound production. I don't know much about it. And I used to be a yes person where I'm like, yeah, I'll take it on. I'll learn all those things. But I know my boundaries now.
Yeah.
So we've had 2 different people give us like proper microphones. So we're going to try those out and see how that works.
Yeah, that's something I haven't.
Well, it's profitable. It doesn't make sense to.
Yeah, well, I've been just using this headset, and it comes out pretty good, so it's not bad. But I just recently found an app called Audacity, where it allows you to play with your sound levels, and that's always been my problem. Like either my voice is too low, theirs is too loud, or the intro is too soft, and then they start talking and it's super loud. So level's been all over the place, and I'm kind of a little.
What type of file it creates?
I have to use.
Like, does it make a MP3 or a wave, or?
I think you have the option of doing both. I want to say it's MP3, but it might be a wave.
I've been told that I have to record in wave now because
what you're using. Not good. Okay. Yeah, check it out. It's called Audacity, and lets you plays the different levels. You can slow it down, speed it up, and 2 years in, I'm still learning stuff. So
Oh yeah.
it's going to be a
Awesome.
process for sure.
Yeah, and you're sticking with it, and I love listening to your show. So
Yeah,
it's been
cool.
great. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I get high every time I get done talking to somebody, and just I'm all excited, and yeah, I want to like upload it right when I get done, but I gotta wait, and it's a little bit of a
Yeah. It's
process
nice
to.
to do the audio now too, because last time we did it just over, or did I just say video? It's nice to do it like this because last time it was just audio, so you
Just
don't
audio, yeah.
feel like you're having as much of a like personal conversation. So this is really
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. Love using Zoom. So, all right, cool. I think we did it, man.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much. It's
Yeah,
awesome to see you again, and we'll have you on our show soon.
yeah. Well, how's your yoga practice been going? You still
I've
teaching?
taken a little break. I'm
Have you?
not teaching right now. I take a break at Christmas time. I kind of run on a school schedule. I teach at the college and university, so
All
I
right.
do a little bit randomly here and there just to maintain, my mobility.
Yeah, yeah. I've been getting into breath work lately. I've been really trying to do that and do the cold shower thing, like the whole Wim Hof thing. So I
I have
mean,
a friend trying to get me to do that. I don't know if I can.
the cold showers.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I start slow. I just start slow.
yeah, yeah.
But I've been doing the
Well,
breath work. I've been really trying to focus on that and do that, and so I'm playing with that. Still, I don't. I guess you can call it stretching yoga. I don't know. I've been doing a lot of stretching. So
you know what? Even just your day to day, depending on how you're, being in your mind is yoga. The physical practice is only one aspect of it, too.
right. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Mm.
All right. Cool.
Cool.
So if people want to follow you, you're no longer fruit medicine. So
Yeah.
how do people find you?
So my Instagram, my personal one is Kayla in the Sea, all together. On YouTube, I am now Kayla C, SEA. And where else am I? I guess my podcast with my best friend Candace. You can find us on Instagram and a whole bunch of other places at Sage Wisdom Podcast. And that's on Facebook as well. And we have
Right.
a lot of big plans with that. It's also on SoundCloud. If you are on there, you can check out. We've even made the shows downloadable so people don't have to be connected to the internet to listen
Right.
to them. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at. I'm in a transitional stage right now, but I am going to be returning to YouTube in a big way soon. I have
Right.
have
Nice.
some good plans upcoming. I've got a few exams in 2 weeks, and then once that's done, we'll get back to it.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, no problem. I look
Awesome
forward
talking
to.
to you.
Yeah, I look forward to listening to your guys' episodes, and I'm always on the lookout for a new podcast because I get kind of bored listening to the same one. So
Yeah.
excited to check
Cool.
you guys out. So
All right.
all
Take
right,
care.
awesome. Well, thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye.